Assalamualaikum and good day again to everyone. I am Rozana Kamal, your video lecturer, tutor for EMOM 5103 Change Management. Welcome to our 5th video lecture for this course. Before we commence, let us take a look again on the EMOM 5103 Change Management Framework. Today, we will discuss topic 5 concerning planning and developing the change plan. In any change project environment, planning is considered as an important phase. Before we proceed, let us look at the learning outcomes of this video. By the end of this session, you should be able to describe the planning involved in developing a change plan, determine the implementation strategy for change, explain the key components of change plan, describe the various interventions that can be adopted in implementing the change, and identify the factors influencing the selection of interventions. Let us first consider why planning is important in change management context. Planning reduces uncertainty in bringing about change. However, planning is a continuous process that needs to be revisited constantly. In this manner, change manager needs to plan in order to achieve the desired change or the output based on the diagnosis for change. Looking from a holistic approach, planning involves determining the implementation strategy for change, developing the change plan, intervention used for change, and the factors influence the choice of intervention for change. As such, the following slides will address each of the stated areas accordingly. First, in order to achieve the required project output, determining the strategy to help organization transform is important. What is implementation strategy that can be adopted? In this context, a holistic view is taken to examine the strengths and weaknesses of managing change through the 3 approaches. Let us now examine these implementation approaches accordingly. 3 strategies can be adopted: the economic strategy, organization development, and a combination of economic and organizational development strategy. The focus is given to the most effective strategy that can lead towards the success of a change project. Beer further stressed that the 3rd strategy that combines economic and organizational development is considered the most effective. The characteristic of the 3 approaches and their differences are shown in the following slide. Now, let us briefly discuss the characteristic and approaches. This is tabulated in table 5.1, which focuses on the following main characteristics: leadership, strategy focus, process, reward systems, and consultant. Now, let us deliberate on developing the change plan. This area focuses on the transition phase and the steps to be taken into account in developing the change plan. In this context, what is transition phase? Harris and Beckhardt describe transition state as a period of time between the identification of the need to change and the achievement of the desired future state. Simply, the phase refers to the state between the need to change and the desired future state. Often, the key phase of this stage is unique and different from the state before the change and the state that will exist after the change. Let us now move to the stages in developing the change plan. As highlighted, planning for the implementation is one of the key steps in the change process. However, in developing change plan, 8 key steps need to be taken into consideration. These key steps are: appoint transition manager, a manager with power and authority to ensure resources are allocated that are able to get things done, gain support and commitment rather than resistance and compliance. Second, identify what needs to be done. Focus on project objective to achieve the change. Various project quality tools can be applied such as cause and effect, affinity diagram. Third, produce implementation plan. In this stage, to consider 2 factors that will influence change plan: stakeholders' perception, whether it is going to happen or not, and to clarify the desired end state, whether it is known, meaning it is a blueprint, or an emergent change that is unknown. Another step, use multiple consistent leverage points for change. This is to ensure alignment of all components of the system, followed by scheduled activities, which can help ensure that all necessary actions occur as and when required. Another step is ensure adequate resources. This is to ensure adequate and required resources are allocated to the change project, followed by implement reward system. Steps needs to be taken on every opportunity to reward positive behavior. And lastly, develop a feedback mechanism. This is to facilitate in monitoring progress towards the desired outcome. Now, let us consider the interventions that can be applied to facilitate the change process. But first, what is interventions in the context of change management? In this context, interventions are deliberate acts designed to facilitate change with the main purpose to move organization to the desired state. According to Cummings and Worley, it is a set of planned actions or events intended to aid towards achieving organizational effectiveness. Many interventions exist in literatures. However, there are 2 contrasting types of intervention that can be used to facilitate the change process. This typology classification is by focusing on people, who does the intervention, and issues, what are the issues to address. The next slides illustrate the 2 types of intervention accordingly. Basing on the previous slide, there are a number of specific change intervention activities that we can select. Let us explore the first type of intervention as shown in figure 5.3. Focus here is on the people who does the intervention and what they can do to bring about the required change. This intervention involves 4 types according to their development and over the past decades. That is, the experts applying scientific principles to solve specific problems, or group collaboration, or people involved in planning and implementing process to solve their own problems, or experts, specialists involved in solving system-wide problems for improvements. Lastly, everybody, involvement of everyone working together to improve the capability of the whole system for future performance. An alternative classification of intervention is based on resolving important issues. This type of intervention focuses on issues as shown in figure 5.4. This is to address the following: the human process, technology or structural, human resources, and lastly, strategic issues. Let us examine the factors to consider when selecting the type of intervention. To highlight, there is no simple recipe that can be used to identify the most effective interventions or for all types of situation or conditions accordingly. In this premise, however, some principles will provide valuable insights that can be applied to support in the selection of appropriate interventions and to assist with decisions and how they should be sequenced. Now let us consider the factors that can influence the choice of intervention that is most likely to contribute towards the achievement of goals. Attention is given to 5 main factors as shown in figure 5.5. In conclusion, planning and preparing for change involve issues that the change manager needs to address after diagnosing what exactly is required to change, in order to decide how to go about in achieving the intended results or required change outcomes. Finally, it should be emphasized there is no simple formula that can be used to identify the most effective intervention for all types of situation and or conditions accordingly. However, valuable principles can be applied to aid in the selection of appropriate intervention and support decision in sequencing in some manner accordingly. Now, we have come to the end of this 5th video session. To summarize, we have discussed the planning involved in developing of change plan, the implementation strategy for change, the key components of change plan, various interventions that can be adopted in implementing the change, and lastly, the factors influencing the selection of interventions. On that note, till we meet again, thank you and wassalam.